Hello, students. So, we will continue NCERT Chapter 10, which is Biomolecules. And today is the theory part 6, and we are going to cover NCERT section 10.2. This is disclaimer. So, first, let's see the objective of today's lecture. So, after attending this lecture, you will be able to explain the characteristics of biomolecules like carbohydrates, proteins, and nucleic acids and hormones. And you'll be able to classify carbohydrates, proteins, nucleic acid, and vitamins on the basis of their structures. So, according to NCERT, the topics which we are going to cover today is 10.2, which is proteins, and we will cover the subtopic 10.2.1, which is amino acids, and then we will cover 10.2.2, which is classification of amino acid, and at last we will summarize the lecture. So let's start with proteins. First, let's begin with the introduction. So first we will understand the term proteins. So the word protein, it comes from a Greek word which is known as proteos, okay? Which means primary or of prime importance. So this shows us that proteins, they are quite essential as we talk about the biomolecules. Now if we talk about what proteins are made up of. So all proteins are polymers, which means they are long chains made up of repeating units. So they all are polymers of alpha amino acids. Now if we talk about some common function of proteins in our bodies. So first we will see that proteins are present in every part of the body, from muscles to skin to hair. So they play a role in almost every biological process. Next, if we see, then proteins are not just structural, they are also basic functions. They are also basic functional units of life. So they perform essential life processes such as catalyzing reactions as enzymes, transporting molecules, and defending against diseases. So this makes them quite crucial for the survival. Next, if we see, then proteins are fundamental for growth and maintenance. So without proteins, our bodies couldn't repair tissues, grow, or even maintain basic functions. So this is why a protein-rich diet is so important, especially for the children as well as for the athletes. Now if we look at this image, so here it is shown that the natural sources of proteins. So it is found in milk, peas, pulses, eggs, fish, meat. So they are all the natural sources. Okay. Now we will start a discussion on amino acids. So first let us see the structure of amino acids. So each amino acids contains two key functional groups. One is an amine group, which is this NH2 group. Another one is the carboxyl group, which is this COOH group. Okay. So an amine contains both of these functional groups. Now if we talk about the general formula for an amino acid, so look, this is important. This is general formula, which is RCH NH2 COOH. So if you see over here, we have a central carbon which is bonded to one amino group, which is NH2 group, one carboxyl group, which is C double bond OH group, one hydrogen, and we have this R group. Okay, so this is the general formula of how the amino acids look like. Now, if we talk specifically about this R group, which is highlighted in orange color, then this R group is also called the side chain. So this is the part of amino acid that varies from one type to another. One important thing is that the properties of the R group determine the characteristics and function of each amino acids in proteins. Okay, so this side chain will differ in each amino acids. Now, if we look at an example, if we talk about simplest amino acid, which is glycine. So in case of glycine, this R is just a hydrogen. Okay, so carbon will be bonded to one amino group, one carboxyl group, and two hydrogens. So in glycine, this R will be H. Okay, so this makes glycine unique because it is the only amino acid without a true side chain. Now, if we talk about another one, which is alanine. So, in alanine, this R group is a methyl group. Okay. So, in case of alanine, the central carbon will be bonded to one amino group, one carboxyl group, one hydrogen, and one methyl group. So, this small change from glycine to alanine, it gives amino acid different chemical properties. And if we talk about serine, then in serine, you will see that R is a CH2OH group. Okay, that means it has an alcohol which is attached. So you can see that in each amino acid, this R or side chain group varies, which changes the amino acid as well as the properties of amino acids. Now moving on towards the nomenclature or the naming system of amino acids. First, we will see that all the alpha amino acids, they have trivial names. Okay. Now, these names, what they usually reflect. Okay. So, we are seeing what they are usually reflecting. First is that these names, they reflect a property of the amino acid, like its taste or appearance. And many of the properties, they depend on the side chain of amino acid. Next, they reflect the source of the compound. Okay, so the source from which it was first isolated. So this helps us remember something which is unique about each amino acid. Next, if we see some examples of how these names originated, it will be more clear. First, let's talk about glycine. So glycine get its name from the Greek word which is called as glycos. And this glycos means sweet. So this is why glycine tastes sweet. So this property of amino acid is influenced by its name. Okay. Next, if you see an example, it is tyrosine. So this was first discovered in cheese. And its name has come from the Greek word which is called tyros and which means cheese. Okay. So you will see that these names, these trivial names, they reflect the property as well as the source of the compound. Now we will talk about the representation of amino acids. So first, see that the primary method for representing amino acid is by using 3-letter symbols. Okay, so instead of writing out the full name, we use abbreviations. Suppose glycine, it is GLYCINE. So we use 3-letter symbols. We can abbreviate glycine as GLY. So it is 3-letter symbols. This is the primary method. Next, alternatively, we can also use 1-letter symbol. Okay. Suppose take an example, leucine. First, if you see the amino acid leucine, it can be represented as LEU using the 3-letter code. Or simply it can be represented as L with 1-letter code. Okay. So you will see this is how we can represent the amino acids. Now look at this table which shows the representation of some selected amino acids. First we have glycine. Now if we talk about glycine, then in glycine you will see that the side chain, that is this R, is actually a hydrogen. Okay, so it will be bonded to one amino group, one carboxylic group, one hydrogen, and this R will also be a hydrogen in this case. So if you have to represent in a 3-letter symbol, you will write this as GLY, and 1-letter code it is G. Similarly, moving towards alanine, in alanine the R is a methyl group which is CH3. So in case of alanine, the 3-letter symbol is ALA and 1-letter code is A. Moving towards valine, in valine you will see that the R, which is the side chain, is actually this thing, okay, which is CH3 whole twice and CH. The 3-letter symbol is VAL and the 1-letter code is V. If we move towards aspartic acid, in aspartic acid we will see that the side chain is CH2COOH, okay, and the 3-letter symbol is ASP and the 1-letter code is D. Moving towards lysine, in case of lysine, you will see that the side chain is actually this compound over here. This is CH2 4 times. So what will be its name? Methane, ethane, propane, bute, because it is 4 carbon atoms. So butane 1 amine. Okay, so you will see the side chain is this and the 3-letter symbol is LYS and the 1-letter code is K. Okay, so this is the representation of these amino acids. Now we will see some properties of amino acids. First, we will see the color. So usually amino acids are colorless. So as such specific, they don't have any color. Next is about crystallinity. So amino acids are crystalline solids, which means they form well-defined, ordered structures when they solidify. So the reason that amino acids are crystalline is because of their Zwitter ionic form. Okay, we will discuss what is this Zwitter ionic form, but for now you need to know that the Zwitter ion is a molecule that has both a positive and a negative charge, but overall it is neutral. Okay, so they are crystalline, amino acids are crystalline because of their Zwitter ionic structure. Next, if you'll see, because of this Zwitter ionic form, amino acids, they can have strong ionic interactions with each other. So these interactions help them form stable, ordered crystalline lattices, making their solid form very structured and regular. Okay, so it allows for strong ionic interactions and formation of ordered crystalline lattices. Next, if we see, next property of amino acid is its solubility. So amino acids are generally water soluble. So if you see, their solubility in water is because of their Zwitter ionic form and their ability to form hydrogen bonds with water molecules. Okay, so a hydrogen bonding is a strong type of interaction between molecules and it helps amino acids mix well together. Next, if you see the exact solubility of each amino acid, it can vary depending on the nature of its side chain, which is also called as R group. So some side chains, they are hydrophilic. Hydrophilic is water loving. So it makes amino acid more soluble. Whereas other are hydrophobic. Hydrophobic means water repelling. So if they are hydrophobic, they decrease solubility. So the specific solubility, it depends upon the nature of their side chains. Next, if we move towards the melting and boiling points, then amino acids, they have high melting and they are high melting and boiling solids. So if you see, the property is this property basically is due to the fact that amino acids exist as dipolar, which is salt like ions in their solid form. Now, these strong electrostatic interactions or these strong electrostatic attractions between the ions, this lead to the high melting points. Okay? As a result, you will see that amino acids, they also have high boiling points. So the strong forces holding the molecules together in the solid and liquid state means that they even even more energy is needed to turn them into a gas. Okay, so they will have high melting and boiling solids. Now moving discussing the properties of amino acids, next we have the behavior of amino acids. So amino acids generally behave like salts in spite of the presence of both group, which is an amine group and a carboxylic acid. So you will see this is because of their structure. So each molecule contains both an acidic group, which is called the carboxylic group, and a basic group, which is called the amino group. That is why they behave like a salt. Now, if you look at what reasons in the aqueous solution or when amino acids are dissolved in water. So, if you look towards the reason in aqueous solution, then in water, the carboxylic group of amino acid can lose a proton. This means it will act as an acid which releases a hydrogen ion into the solution. Next, you will see that at the same time, the amino group can accept a proton. That means now it is acting like a base, taking up a hydrogen ion from the solution. So both acid and base reactions are happening within the same molecules. So carboxyl group is acting like an acid and amino group is acting like a base. So as a result of these two processes, the amino acid forms a dipolar ion, which is known as Zwitter ion. So if we talk about Zwitter ion, then in Zwitter ion, one end of the molecule has a positive charge and the other end has a negative charge. But overall, the molecule is neutral. So if you see, this is an amino acid. Sorry, this is you will see an amino acid which contains one amine group and a carboxylic group. Okay, so you will see that if we are talking in aqueous solution, this carboxylic group loses a proton. So see, it has this oxygen has get a negative charge. So it is behaving like an acid. And this amino group, which is the NH2 group, this behaves like a base. So it's accept one proton. So it is NH3 plus. Okay, so you will see this is a Zwitter ion which has both a positive and a negative charge. But overall, the molecule is neutral. Okay, so you will see this is the formation of Zwitter ion. So if we talk about Zwitter ionic form, then amino acid show amphoteric behavior. This means they can act as both acids and bases depending on the conditions. So to sum up, you can say in aqueous solutions, amino acids mostly exist in the Zwitter ionic form. So this explains their salt behavior and their ability to act as both acids and bases. Okay, so this dual nature is what makes amino acids so versatile in biological systems. Now we will talk about another concept which is isoelectric point, which is also denoted as small p and capital I. Now what is this isoelectric point? So isoelectric point refers to the specific pH value. This particular pH, the amino acids mainly exist as a Zwitter ion. That means it will have both a positive and a negative charge. So at isoelectric point, the net charge of amino acid is 0. This means the total positive and the negative charges on the molecule cancel out each other. So because the net charge is 0, the amino acid is considered as a neutral molecule at this isoelectric point. Now, as this is a neutral molecule, so hence it will not migrate in an electric field. Okay, so this is about the isoelectric point. It has a specific pH. The net charge is 0. It is a neutral molecule and it does not migrate in an electric field. Now let us see what happens when pH is less than isoelectric point. So this means that the environment is more acidic than Pi, which is the isoelectric point. So when pH is less than Pi, the amino acids becomes protonated. Especially the carboxylate group, which is the COO minus, it gains on hydrogen ions and it becomes COOH. So this extra proton makes the molecule more positively charged. So as a result of this protonation, the amino acids, they act as a cation, okay, which means it has an overall positive charge. Now if we see that pH is greater than the isoelectric point, so at the pH values above the Pi, the amino acids become deprotonated. So here the amino group, which is NH3+, it loses a hydrogen ion and it becomes NH2. So this loss of proton makes the molecule more negatively charged. So because of this deprotonation, the amino acid, it now exists as an anion, meaning it has an overall negative charge. Okay, so this is if pH is less than Pi, it exists as cation, and if pH is more than Pi, it exists as anion. Now we will talk about the optical activity of amino acids. Now first see that all amino acids are optically active. This means that amino acids, they can rotate plane polarized light to the left or right. Now this property is because of a chiral center, which is usually at the alpha carbon atom. Now there is one exception to this rule. Okay, not every amino acid is optically active. So you will see that there is one exception, which is glycine. So glycine, it is the only alpha amino acid that is optically inactive. Generally, all amino acids, they are optically active, but there is an exception, which is glycine. Okay, unlike other amino acids, glycine does not rotate the plane of polarized light. So you have to remember this exception, that glycine is not optically active. Okay, now why it is not optically active is that its alpha carbon is not chiral. If you talk about chirality, that means all the groups which is attached to the alpha carbon must be different. But in case of glycine, all the 4 groups which is attached to the alpha carbon, they are not different. So it lacks the asymmetry which is needed for the optical activity. Okay, so you can say in short, its alpha carbon is not chiral. So if you look over here, the structure of glycine, you will see that this carbon, which is the alpha carbon, it has 2 same groups. It has 2 hydrogens. So it is not a chiral carbon, because this is bonded to 2 hydrogen atoms, which makes it achiral. So that is why it is not optically active. Now another property of amino acid is that most naturally occurring amino acids, they have L configuration. Okay, so that means their structure is arranged in a specific way. So most naturally occurring amino acids, they have L configuration. Now we will see the flow chart of classification of amino acids. So if you look at this flow chart towards the classification, broadly it is classified on the basis of number of functional group and on the basis of synthesis. Now on the basis of number of functional group, it is classified as neutral amino acid, acidic amino acids and basic amino acids. And on the basis of synthesis, it is classified as essential amino acids and non-essential amino acids. Now one by one we will see all of these categories. Now moving towards on the basis of classification, first we will see on the number of functional groups they have. So based on the relative number of amino and carboxylic group in each molecule, amino acids can be divided into three main types. First is neutral. So first type is neutral amino acids. In neutral amino acids, the number of amino group equals to the number of carboxyl group. Okay, so there will be equal number of amino and carboxyl group. Examples are glycine, alanine, valine. Okay. Second type is acidic. So acidic amino acids, when the number of carboxyl group it exceeds the number of amino group, then these amino acids they are classified as acidic amino acids. Examples are aspartic acid and glutamic acid. And the third type is basic amino acids. So in this category, the number of amino group is more than the number of carboxyl group. Okay, so they fall under the category of basic amino acids. Example are histidine, lysine, arginine. Okay, so remember on the relative number of amino and carboxyl group, it is classified neutral, acidic, basic. Neutral, same number of amino and carboxyl group. Acidic, carboxyl group is more than amino group. And basic means amino group is more than carboxyl group. And you have to remember the examples that which amino acids fall under which category. Okay. Now another classification is on the basis of synthesis in the body. So on the basis of synthesis in the body, amino acids can be classified into two types. First is essential amino acids. So these are the amino acids that a body cannot make on its own. This means we have to get them from the food which we eat. That's why the intake of these amino acids they must be properly maintained to prevent their deficiency and the problems related to it. Okay, so examples are valine, leucine, isoleucine, arginine, lysine, threonine, methionine, phenylalanine, tryptophan, and histidine. So they all is what our body cannot synthesize. Okay, and they have to be taken through the diet. So they are essential amino acids. Next is non-essential amino acids. So unlike essential ones, our body they can produce these non-essential amino acids. So we don't have to rely on our diet to get them. Okay. So the difference is key what we think about dietary requirements. So examples are alanine, arginine, asparagine, aspartic acid, cysteine, glutamic acid, glutamine, glycine, proline, serine, and tyrosine. Okay, so this is on the basis of synthesis in the body. Now next is some other categories. So classification of the amino acids, they depend upon the relative position of amino group. Okay, let us see how. So if we talk about alpha amino acids, so in alpha amino acids, in these amino groups, in this the amino group which is the NH2 group, it is attached to the carbon which is next to this carboxyl group. So if you see this carbon which is next to this carboxyl group is called alpha carbon. And in alpha amino acids, this NH2 group is attached to this alpha carbon. Okay, so you need to remember what is alpha carbon? The carbon which is next to this carboxyl group. And NH2 which is attached to this alpha carbon is alpha amino acids. Next you will see that the beta, gamma and delta amino acids. So amino group, if it is attached to the beta, which is the second carbon, they are beta amino acids. And if the amino group is attached to gamma, which is the third carbon, or delta, which is the fourth carbon, and we are counting it from the carboxyl group, they are gamma. Okay. So if you will see, if this is the carbon, this is alpha carbon, which is the first carbon. Now, if there is one more carbon over here, imagine there is one more carbon over here. So this is the second carbon. So it will be beta carbon. And if one more carbon is there, then that is third carbon, which is gamma carbon. And if one more carbon is there, that is fourth carbon, which is the delta carbon. Okay. So you will see that the amino group attached to beta, gamma or delta carbon, counting from the carboxyl group respectively. Okay. Now, continuing with some other categories, about 20 natural amino acids they are known till now. Okay, so you will see that naturally, all naturally occurring amino acids they are called alpha amino acids. This means that the amino group is attached to the carbon which is next to this carboxyl group. Now, of course, there will be an exception to this. So the exception to this is proline. So proline has slightly different structure. Now, if you look towards the structure of proline, see this is a proline. So notice that how its side chain it loops and forms a ring with the amino group. So this is the NH group and it forms a ring with this amino group. So this cyclic structure is what sets proline apart from other amino acids. So if you will see the reason that why proline is different, first its side chain forms a cyclic structure with alpha amino group. Now this is an alpha amino group. Why? Because this is bonded to this alpha carbon. And why is this alpha carbon? Because this carbon is adjacent to this carbonyl group. So this is alpha carbon and this is alpha amino group. So it forms a side chain with a cyclic structure with this alpha amino group. Notice this cyclic structure. So its side chain forms a cyclic structure. And next is that it makes it an amino acid. So rather than having a primary amino group, so it has a secondary amino group. How? Because this nitrogen is bonded to one hydrogen and two R groups. So it makes it a secondary amino group. It makes it a kind of amino acid. Okay, so it is not a primary amino group. Instead, it is a secondary amino group. So this is an exception that proline is not a alpha amino acids. Okay. Now, if we see other categories, then we talk about aromatic amino acids. So this is another category. So amino acid which contains cyclic aromatic ring in their structure, they are classified as aromatic amino acids. Example, you will see phenylalanine, tyrosine and tryptophan. If you look at this phenylalanine over structure, then if you notice in the side chain, this structure contains an aromatic ring. So this is an aromatic ring which is in the side chain. Okay. Now next, if we see sulfur containing amino acids. So these amino acids, they have sulfur atom in their side chain, which affects their reactivity and the roles in proteins. So if we, example is methionine and cysteine. So if you will see this cysteine, it has a sulfur in their side chain. So this is aromatic amino acids and this is sulfur containing amino acids. Now next we see that another is alcohol containing amino acids. So these are amino acids that have an alcohol group, which is the OH group attached to their side chain. Example is serine, threonine, tyrosine. So if you will see, they have an OH group, which is an alcohol group, which is attached to their side chain. Okay. So till now you must know that they contain one NH2 group, one carboxyl group, and the R, which is the side chain, it varies. Okay. So we have discussed different categories and you have to remember the examples. Okay. That which fall under sulfur containing, which fall under aromatic one, and which fall under alcohol containing amino acids. As well as you need to remember the exceptions. Now, at last, we will summarize what we have studied in today's lecture. So, we discussed about proteins. So, we see that protein comes from the Greek word which is called proteos, which means of primary importance. Next, we see that proteins, they are made up of, they are building blocks of amino acids. Next, we will see that amino acids, they contain two important groups, and amino group, which is the NH2 group, and the carboxyl group, which is COOH. So these groups are responsible for the chemical properties of amino acids and how they link together to form proteins. Next, we talked about its characteristics. So they are colorless and they dissolve easily in water. Next, we talked about the basic structure of amino acids. Then they contain an amino group, NH2 group, and a carboxyl group. And both the amino group, they are attached to an alpha carbon. Okay, so if you will see that the amino group which is attached to an alpha carbon. Now there are some notable exceptions. So first is proline. It is not an alpha amino acid. Okay? Because in case of proline, you will see that their side chain forms a cyclic structure. Okay? So it is not an alpha amino acid. Next is, we talked about glycine. Glycine is optically not active. It is optically inactive. Why? Because it doesn't have a chiral carbon. Because its side chain is a hydrogen atom. So it do not have 4 different groups. That means it is not able to rotate the plane polarized light. Okay, so it is optically inactive. Next, we saw about the key characteristics of amino acids. So we saw first they are colorless crystals. Then they usually dissolve in water. Next is they have high melting and boiling points. And then we saw the classification of amino acids. First is the classification based on functional groups. So they are neutral, acidic or basic. Okay, depending upon the count of amino group and the carboxyl group. Okay. Next is on the basis of synthesis by our body, which is essential and non-essential. So essential and non-essential, they are classified on the basis of synthesis by our body. Okay. Next, we talked about the behavior in solutions. So we discussed that in solution, amino acids, they can form a Zwitter ion. That means it have a positive and a negative charge. Okay, but overall it is neutral. Then we discussed about isoelectric point. At isoelectric point, the net charge of amino acid is 0. But if you see, if it is below pi, below isoelectronic point, they exist as cations, and above pi, they exist as anions. So thank you so much, students, for your attention. I hope this lesson was helpful to you. Thank you.